Alright guys, today we're here with a quick boss rush tier list. Really quick, casual rundown. Each one of these pictures represents the tier 3, 4, and 5. So, for example, the Glaive Lord here would represent Glaive Ricochet, more Glaives, and Glaive Lord itself. You'll see here at the top we have a tier named Geraldo. That's for what it is, Geraldo. He is not legal for boss rush, and he was only in a boss rush because of a bug recently, and he's just been broken when he is, but generally I don't see him in boss rush in the future, so I'm just leaving him there in his own tier. So first up we have the Ultra Juggernaut. It's a pretty good stepping stone into the Dart Paragon, which is the strategy on most boss rush maps. If there's a Paragon available that's for cheap, say Dart, Boomer, Ninja even, you go for it. But at the same time, Plasma Monkey Fan Club is just better at the boss damage itself. This is only good in general for Dread Balloon against those ceramics, all those like extra cerams that and fortifieds that come out. But it's a solid B tier. Onto the Plasma Monkey Fan Club / Super Monkey Fan Club. This is really great for boss rush because the ability just shreds through everything and it farms pops for your Dart Paragon, and the 20 darts that you already have those tiers for contribute to the Paragon. That's so good. I'm gonna put this in S or A. I think maybe the higher tier of A because the Dargon would be S itself. The Crossbow Master, it's pretty decent, but not the best. It does have that one monkey knowledge point for 2 tier 5s, so that the dart gun has a higher degree, but that has less to do with the tower itself, and more to do with the crossbow. And the tier 3 and 4 are basically irrelevant. I'm gonna put it in C. Glaive Lord here. This, for me, personally, S tier. Because the way it can just defend all those like balloons that come out of the bosses, and even with phase it can help out because the spinning glaives kill the camos, and it's a great build into the Boomergon. The lower tiers are like perfect against Blunaria, so you can just keep upgrading it as you get more and more money from killing bosses. Permacharge, it's decent. It's only here for like building up, but to the Boomergon, same kind of placement as these two, but it doesn't really have a spot, so I'm gonna put it in C next to Crossbow Master. Keep in mind these tiers are like not in order, so like Crossbow Master isn't necessarily better than Permacharge. Mob goes in the same spot for the same reason. Balloon Crush is pretty abysmal. You'll only see Balloon Crush like at the end of a run after you've gotten a Paragon and you just want to stun, like, say Bloonarius, you want to stun the insides of bads before they exit. But even then, you'll generally use like an Icicle Impale, which I'll go over later. But it still has some usage. It'll be D tier. Elam is pretty bad. But with the recent buff, I'm not sure how this will turn out in Boss Rush, but I doubt it'll be that good. Unless you can get like an Energizer or something, which I will go over later anyway. I'm gonna put it in C as well. Bomb Blitz. This tower, I don't really know how to feel about it because in some cases it can be super good. Like when you're going for like bottom path Druid with Azili and you have Bomb Blitz against Dread Balloon, it just nukes the rock balloons for you. You never have to deal with them, but at the same time, it's pretty bad otherwise. And it doesn't really have much use against Phase or Bloonarius, but I would put it higher than these 4 towers here just because it has some use. Inferno Ring is only here really for cleanup or like rock balloons because the meteor is just so good against taking those out. You can set the targeting power to strong and kill the rock balloons, but it doesn't really have any viability against Phase or Bloonarius. Well, maybe some for Bloonarius, just because of all the balloons. I'm gonna put it in B. Maelstrom is absolutely terrible. You'll never see this tower like ever in any boss rush. It's F, like easily. And here we have the perfect combo in my opinion. Like attack, ice, right next to each other. These two are basically S, right? Although they do struggle a little bit with Dread Balloon and especially Phase because Taxon doesn't pop camo, but you have to get the damage buff from ice, and the tack shooters are just so good. It's like chef's kiss. Perfect. Um Absolute Zero and it's like tier 3 and 4. It has a use, like the most recent map I think was like Water Park or whatever. Um the ice platforms are definitely very useful on certain maps, but on a lot of maps we never use it. So, but it's kind of in the same category as the C tier towers, where they have like a use, but it's kind of niche. Impale, this is just a better version of Balloon Crush. It's cheaper, and it can hit camos straight off the bat, so against phase, you're better. So I'm gonna put it up in B. Solver. Now, this, I can't really weigh this that easily yet, but with the new Mermonkey update, the DOT explosion or whatever it's called, that seems to be very strong, but I haven't had the time to experiment with it, so it might not be as good as I think it is. But looking at that combo, it could be like it does have potential. So I will just put it in C tier just for now. Could be it could have potential to rise up a lot. Now, Glue Storm and Glue Strike, that's an easy S tier. All the damage buffs are basically going here. Anyway, I'm gonna put Cripple up there as well, just so that we have all of them there. Like, these 3 towers you have to get in like every boss rush run if they're there. Like, these are the best towers to ever have. And then now we have Super Glue. This is really only used for gluing rock balloons, and it's not even that good. Elite Sniper, this is only good when Geraldo was in, so that you could get like all the supply crates, but because Geraldo is not usually in, it's usually never seen. Elite Defender, it can be good in certain scenarios, but it doesn't have natural camo detection unless you go for middle path, but that's less DPS. And in general, a lot of boss rush maps have line of sight blockers and such, and it's generally not as good as you might think, even though it's super good for early bossing. It still does do better than these 2 towers in D tier though, so I'm gonna put it in C. Energizer. Okay, so this is rarely ever used because they usually ban off all the abilities. MK does, but sometimes they don't, and when they don't, then Spike Storms go crazy, First Strikes go crazy with this Energizer. So it does have a niche, I will give it that. So I'm gonna put it in B just because it has a niche, but not like as good as the Plasma Monkey Fan Club. And then we have Preemptive and First Strikes. This only goes with Energizer, and since Energizer goes with other abilities, specifically Spike Storm, this will have to go a tier below it. So, Sub Commander, Sub Army is decent, but you have to make your whole strategy revolve around it, and you need quite a bit of water in order for that to happen. So you're gonna need to use Brickle, which generally has a slower start, unless you have Spac. But if you already have Spac, you wouldn't go for Sub anyway. So I'm gonna put it in C as well. It's not like D tier worthy. Aircraft Carrier, this gives a great buff to water towers and also aces. So for example, Sky Shredder and Carrier Flagship goes crazy. It does have a niche, I will give it that, but it's not as good as these niches. Pirate Lord, this is pretty abysmal. I'm gonna put it in F tier actually, because it doesn't do anything really. Trade Empire slash favorite trades. Okay, so Trade Empire and Merchantmen are like pretty much obsolete, but the sellback from favorite trades is absolutely like bonkers when you're selling for like a big tower like a Mad, a Supermind, even a Paragon. This comes in like super clutch. I might even put in an S, maybe A, but I don't think it's necessary every run, especially if the map is or the boss is super hard and you don't have enough to get a Paragon, then it's less useful than these would be. Speaking of that, I don't think Glaive Lord is like at this level. I might bump it down to A. Yeah. Okay. So Sky Shredder, Fighter Plane, and ODS. These towers are great. Fighter Plane is actually one of the most efficient starts like to any boss. Like you can just drop it down and the missiles will go crazy. You can build it into ODS, and then Sky Shredder, which pairs perfectly with all of these damage buffs. All those darts go crazy. SAR, this is only really used for cleaning up rock balloons, but it's not even as good at its job, so I'm gonna drop it there. Flying Fortress. This is a decent tower to build into, especially if there's line of sight blockers, but it's generally outclassed um by Mad or Super Mines, but it does have its niche, so I will put it in we'll say C, just like because when Dartling and Mad are banned, this usually comes up, and the difference between when Icicle Impel gets banned, when Ice gets banned, you don't get Super Brittle anyway, so it's less likely that you'll get a Paragon in general. And if Ice is banned, you have a better option in Druid and other kills first. So this is literally never seen. It doesn't do very much. Chinook and Special Operations, this is great when you want to move around your Super Mines or your Tack Zone or your Super Brittle just to save a lot of money. You really only use this when you're going for a big save up like a Sub or a Ninja Gon. So I think it's B or C. It's either in the lower part of B or high part of C. I'm gonna say ooh, lower part of B just because of the money saving potential. And it's not as big of a money save as flavored trades, but it's like pretty close. This is like never used. That's also never used. This is like never used as well. Bloonsin, Signal Flare, and Shattering Shells. This is great for early camo, since it's full map range, and it's like great at doing its job. And generally, boss rush maps will have a bunch of curves, so for tax and stuff. So this is great. There are other decamo options like the wizard, and you would use that over the shattering shells sometimes, but it really depends on what gets banned or what not. And this is full map range, like I said, so for multi-lane maps, it's really good. Especially if you're like limited with space, you want to have your tax like as close to the track as possible, and the wizard would take up room, but the mortar you can drop anywhere. So I would put it in B or C. I'm gonna put it in C because I don't think it's as good as these niches, because there are like some decamos that kind of rival it. Ray of Doom is pretty good at its job. It's less effective than Mad, I feel, but it does clean up like DDT insides from bads or whatever, from like especially phase better, but it's a bit more expensive and it does less like actual damage to the boss itself. So if I had to do this, I would put C for Ray of Doom and Mad above it in B. But I feel like Mad doesn't deserve B. Mad deserves A, right? Because it's on like the level of these towers. But Ray of Doom is like just underneath Mad, but it doesn't feel like this level. I could bump up Ray of Doom actually. This is like never used. Nope, not used. Okay, and then this has Shimmer. Like I said, Bloonsin, kinda good. but not the best. I'm gonna put it here. Top Path Super. The Sun Avatar spam is really great, especially with Adora. But it's a bit costly to build into, and you generally only see it for Dreadbloon because um because of other immunity struggles. Like against there's so many better options for the cost of it, but it's only if you're struggling with like the other immunities that you go for Sun Avatars. But the support temples, whenever you have time to build those, they save you so much money, and it's a great build up into a Paragon. So I'm gonna put it in A tier. This is Vengeful. You'll never see it pretty much because you can't afford it. Anti-Balloon. This is not really that used. You'll really only buy this if you're going for like a Subgon or Ninjagon and you need to sell everything, but it's not enough time, so you use the ability to kill everything, sell everything quickly, and then buy it. But it does have a use other than these F tier towers. Legend of the Night, this is like perfect. It's like full map range, does great damage. The portal can buy you a few extra kills when you die to insides. So this is a great tower. I'm gonna put it in B. Top Path Ninja, not very used. It's really only used in against phase when there's like no camo early game, but that's like never the case. It's F. Sabo does have a use. Its only use is against rock balloons on Dreadbloon when you have really bad struggles, but it's not too good, but it's not the best because it's an ability, of course. I'd say either C or D. I'm gonna put it D just because it feels similar to the Anti-Balloon or SAR ability. Massive Armor is like never used. Actually, well, Sticky Bomb is used. I will give it that. So I will put it in C. Perma Brew slash Berserker Brew slash Stronger Stimulant. It's okay. You're not really outbuffing very much because you're gonna have to sell rebuy it a lot. But with the recent change to Permabrew, I'm not exactly sure how this will affect it. But for now, I'm just gonna put it in D just because it might be good and it sort of has a little bit of a niche. This is F easily. This is also F easily. Superstorm, like I was discussing when we were talking about Bloom Crush and Super Glue and Icicle Impale, Superstorm is like great because instead of slowing them down, it actually just pushes them back so that your Paragon can actually pop them rather than stalling them there and hoping, right? So I'm gonna put it in B next to Icicle Impale. I feel like I use them about the same, and especially if you're going for a Zealy Druid as your previous strat, then you can pair it with the bottom path, and that'll actually help you with um, stalling. And it's also perfect because if you have it up before your Paragon and you can still afford your Paragon, you basically build it instantly and you don't have to risk like leaking while the Paragon is summoning. Spirit of the Forest, this is a great tower actually. Um, it does give you that cash bonus and it also pops all the balloons. So for example, on Bloonarius or like Phase, whenever you're going for like attack ice strategy, and Phase spawns the portal or Bloonarius spawns all those balloons next to it, it like takes up the pierce of the attacks, which is not good. But the Spirit of the Forest takes that out pretty easily, and it also makes you a lot of money for Paragon. So that's actually really good. I'm gonna put it in B tier with these because it's not like a must-use tower if it's available. It's just there. Avatar of Wrath. This tower is great with a Populous army, especially paired with Azili. And in boss rush, like early game, you'll generally leak a lot of like camos. Maybe you'll leak rock balloons from Dreadbloon, or maybe you're like rushing at like 10 kills on Bloonarius before that, just so you can make money quicker. You'll generally leak a lot of lives, and you can use that to your advantage with these. It's good, but I wouldn't say it's must use, like up here, so I'm gonna put it like B as well. Farms have never been like legal, so I'm not sure how to rank them here. I guess I'll put them in the same category as Geraldo just for now. And just rename this tier. Geraldo plus farms. Supermines. Supermines is absolutely great. I would say even S tier. Carpeta Spikes and Spike Storm, S tier easily. These two, great. Like their tier 3s are great for early game. Moab Shredder with Smart Spikes, that's so great against everything. And then against Dreadbloom, you're going to want to use top spiked balls with Smart Spikes just because of that bonus Ceram damage. It's so good. And then obviously their tier 5 counterparts, like they also do so much damage later on. Honestly, Spike Factory's great for bossing. Permaspike, this is generally not a good tower. There was one recorded use of it on the Dreadbloom X Factor map, where after Dreadbloom enters, you can build a permaspike like right in front of it, and then the second it comes out, the spike piles just delete it. But it's not as good as Supermines or Carpet. So, although it does have a niche, it's not a very good niche. I'm going to put it in D tier. Primary expertise. This is great for building Plasma Monkey fan clubs, but it's not like too good. So I'm going to put it in C. Homeland defense and call to arms and such. This is like a great tower, especially with spikes, because the 2x pierce and the 2x attack speed is basically a 4x because their damage, but I don't think they're a must-use tower. Like, you don't use them every game you have it. Monkey Town, okay, just for that, you can't buy the tier 5, obviously, but just for Monkey Town and, like, the increased range of Monkey City from, like, that is, like, easily, like, A tier, right? Because it just allows you to buy Paragons. If you have Village and you don't get Monkey Town, what are you doing? Like, Sentry Champion, not that good. I'm gonna put in F. It's like never used. Balloon Trap only has one use in catching rock balloons at the very start. It's not very good either. You need like the weird crosspath with no targeting to even pick it up sometimes, which is pretty bad. Overclock is useful for overclocking your mad, right? For overclocking your super mines. It's decent, but it's not the best per se. I'm gonna put it in the same like lane as Homeland. It's like good, but not the best. All beast handlers are generally not good because they don't really do very much. And now we get to the new mermonkeys. We haven't really gotten the best, like, the best, what's the word for that? I don't know, experience per se, or like testing, whatever. We don't really have as much information on how well it's used, but from what I can see with the damage over time explosion from this monkey, it could be B, even A tier, but it hasn't proven itself. Even like the Magic Monkey Pierce, you don't really need too much Pierce in Boss Rush. But this swirly thing really does help with leaks and like having it trigger your super mines, like having the balloon spin into your super mines to spawn the explosion, and then in turn that explosion hits the boss is pretty good. These two I haven't experimented too much with it. For people who don't use powers, this is like decent for portable lakes basically, but you don't really use it too much. And you don't really use the water towers too much anyway. So in general, I don't think this is very good for now. I'm just gonna put it in D. This ability doesn't seem very good against Boss Rush. I could be proven wrong. Watch my guides later. Maybe it's like actually the best tower in the world and I'm sleeping on it majorly. But for now, I'm gonna leave it an F. So Dartgon and Boomergon, they are like S tier. If they're on the board, you go for them. It's like that simple, right? Like these two will like instantly increase your score by like 20 kills if you can get them. Even like if the boss is right about to exit, like it's still so good. It's so good. Subgon is pretty unaffordable, but in certain scenarios you can afford it. Same thing with Ninjagon, but you don't always get to afford it, which is why I'm gonna put them in A tier, which is like because they're difficult to get, but if you can get them, they're even better than these, but they're super difficult to get. These are like basically unaffordable unless you get like, and that's not even good when you do get it. These like Paragons are not like affordable unless you use Geraldo, but Geraldo is already up here with farms and such. Quincy is like F tier. It's like not useful at all. The most recent use of him was like his bugged icon showing that you could get Geraldo in Boss Rush. Gwen is not that good. I'm gonna put it in F as well. Striker does have a niche. The Pierce buff it gives to Spike Factories is great because it Pierce Buster's Factories is basically a damage buff. So, but it's not like too much worth. I would say you'd have a pretty bad early game with it. Open Druid can be good, but in general, it's not as dominant as Striker Spike Factories. Churchill is not that good. Ben has been used like in one boss rush just to stay alive on X Factor. So I will put it in C, well actually D, because it only has one result. That's where I put like the one use case towers like Permaspike. But yeah, his money is like terrible, but his cash generate or his life generation is what we want there. And then Azili is a top tier like hero. I wouldn't say S, and I wouldn't say A. Actually, I would say A. Azili can give camo with the totem. You can pair it with Plasma Monkey Fan Club, and so that way you can go for like better cross paths and such. It takes away lives, which buffs druids. Like Azili is so good. Hex will work on those late round bads from those bosses too, so that's great. Pat can be good when buffing tax, but it's not the best, I will say. Adora is in the same situation except worse than Pat because it can only buff one tower. Same thing, it's worse than Striker, so I'm gonna put it in D. It can only buff like Sun Temples, and it's not even that good. Brickle is a solid B or A. When Brickle is used, it's really good, but you don't really use it too much because subs themselves or boats are not viable. Etienne is generally garbage. You don't need global camo detection because FaZe will like do the little glitchy thing anyway. Sada is easily the best hero for boss rush. The early game with Sada is so much easier. You can just buy, resell, and you get like infinite money. Well, not infinite, but like early game money is so good, and she pops balloons like in front of like near the same lane, so that's great. Sai is pretty bad. Corvus is pretty bad. That's pretty bad. All the rest of these are skins. So in the end, this is my tier list. Let's just do that just for the people watching. Could you like please balance? Okay, there we go. So that's my tier list for Boss Rush. Thanks for watching. See you later.